There's been some worrying indicators since about the last local government elections in 2011, when we saw that there were, for the first time, 7 community protests that took place on the election day. And this was the first time ever recorded. So it would be interesting to see tomorrow whether we will have other incidents of election violence on election day. But we are all seeing this morning and yesterday incidents in informal settlement near Dalmas on the East Rand. We have seen the security cluster descending on all what they call hotspots in Beckersdale, Khayelitsha, Mitchell's Plain, and other areas to ensure and to pacify communities. So we don't know how tomorrow will turn out. We don't expect high peaks of violence or many incidents of violence, but there might be 1 or 2 incidents of disruption. But as I say, it's the first year where, the 2011 was the first year where we saw some election violence or some protests on the day of the election, and it would be interesting to see what will happen tomorrow. What we've seen on our election, the campaigning section, the campaigning period, say 6 months from about October, is that we recorded about 78 incidents of election violence up to Sunday, the 12th of May. Or shall I say election-related incidents and protests. Of these incidents and protests, about 2/3 or 53 turned violent. Escalated into violence. These are the areas such as Stark Strait, in the Eastern Cape, where there was a boycott called over unresolved demarcation disputes. Beckersdale is a very well documented area, as well as areas in Khayelitsha, Ga-Rankuwa, and Taung, where IEC stations were, and IEC station materials were burned during the last voter registration period. Of these 78 incidents, half took place in the metros and 27% in rural areas.
I think there are 2 things. While dealing with the roots of the problem, why are there these protests in the first place? And when they happen, how they should be handled. One, I think, the easier one perhaps is how when protests happen, they should be dealt with. A properly trained police force where they are told what are the limits of using force legally, and also other ways of managing protests instead of like just what happened in Marikana, violently shooting minors. Policing methods that contain the situation and allow for peaceful protests or negotiations. But I think that is dealing with perhaps a symptom of it as well. And also it's dealing with something that could be dealt with, like proper training of police.
It is therefore extremely important that we start tracking election violence in this country in a far greater detail, and that's what we hope our system is doing and will continue to do in the future. The importance of looking at election violence in a country like South Africa, where it's not regarded as significant, that we don't regard our election violence as significant in terms of a constant threat to free and fair elections. But we have to trend, we need to capture the trends. If we don't, it will be something that can become a problem in the future, specifically as there are greater struggle for power between different political parties, new emerging parties, especially at a local level. I think the police are well equipped to deal with tomorrow's turnout, and I think they also do the intelligence beforehand. They also have their own sort of analysis of other places that didn't necessarily make the news. So I think we'll see a very strong security presence at the voting stations around these hotspots and other areas identified by the various policing, crime intelligence